Thank you all for coming out tonight. I think our Sheriff Greg Seabold is in the house. Sheriff Seabold, are you he's outside? Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate you coming. Always good to see you. At this time, I'm going to ask Brian Biggs, would you mind leading us in a word of prayer, please?
Lord, we come to you today, Lord, and we come into you, Lord, today with a heavy heart, Lord. We ask you, Lord, to guide our path today, Lord. Guide our thoughts here today, Lord. Help us understand, Lord, and listen to each other, Lord. And Lord, today we're asking for your guidance, Lord, today, like we never have before, Lord. I ask you to bless this meeting and bless everyone in attendance. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thanks, Brian. Todd Cutler, fellow board member, is not with us tonight. He's not just missing the meeting on purpose. His daughter is playing in the, I think it's the Western Regional volleyball finals.
Yeah.
And that's very important family time, so you don't want to miss that. Wish them the best. They're probably halfway finished as we speak. At this time, would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I need a motion to adopt the meeting agenda. Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, let me give you a little background on why we're here tonight. 2 weeks ago, I asked that we table voting on the mask at our last board meeting. I talked about how difficult it's been being a school board member, and I actually found myself feeling like a hypocrite while I was only wearing a mask during the meetings and not wearing it any other time. I was just doing what I thought to keep kids in school. The board decided to give the leadership at the health department time to get prepared to do their job. We sent a letter to the director and all the board members of the health department, and I'm going to allow public comments, and that's how we got here tonight. But after the public comments, I will share the letter that we sent, and I'll share the follow-up from the health department, and then we'll have some discussion among the superintendent, the board members, and we'll just let the meeting kind of go from there. But first of all, we're going to move on to the public comments, and we have several people signed up tonight, so I would ask that 3 minutes. I'm going to try to let everyone speak, and I'd ask that we be respectful while others are speaking. If you don't disagree, I'd appreciate you not hollering out. If we're just not going to do that tonight. Everybody gets a fair chance, and I'd appreciate if you don't single out board members or anybody and say bad things. That's not what we're here for. We're here to listen, but we're going to have an orderly meeting tonight, and I want everybody to be able to stay, but if it gets out of hand, you will be asked to leave. So at this time, I would open up and call Michael Peel.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'd like to start off by saying I and many others appreciate the hard work this board and our superintendent have put forth to keep our schools open even when others around us were closed. I'm a firm believer that very few, if any, in this room believe masks are the answer to getting us through this issue. At its root, I don't believe we have a mask problem. We have a quarantine problem. If only a COVID positive student were sent home, most of these issues would go away. However, the options the state of North Carolina has handed down make no sense whatsoever. Make no mistake, I am not a fan of masks. I do not condone masks. My 3 children are not fans of masks. Countless studies have shown the negative side effects of masks. However, as much as I dislike masks, I enjoy the normalcy this school year has brought even more. Last year was atrocious for everyone involved. I watched my own children, who have been honor roll students their whole life, suddenly lack the motivation to complete assignments. Not regularly being in school pushed many students away from sports and other extracurricular activities. Depression sat in on kids who were typically happy and healthy kids, and threats of suicide plagued many. Fast forward to this year. Because of your efforts, football stadiums across the county are full every week. Volleyball teams have competed in the state playoffs, and kids have been able to compete in vocational activities such as Skills USA, and theaters have been full of course concerts. Homecoming queens have been crowned. No one knows how much of this would have happened if the current strategy was not in place. I'm not advocating masks. I repeat that. However, as I understand it, the state has only given this board 2 options to work with. One involves wearing a mask and only sending a COVID-positive student home, and the other has optional masks that could send entire classrooms and teachers home. If given only these 2 options, unfortunately, wearing masks is the lesser of the evils. I know that is not popular with many. It's not popular with me, my wife, or my kids. Although I don't understand or agree with many strategies, I understand those with arguments other than what I've presented tonight. Until our feckless leaders in Raleigh give you guys something to work with, we have to play with the cards we're dealt. It's in everyone's best interest to keep kids in school. I've been told, you don't know how tough this decision is. Tough is the decision a single mom has to make when she has to quarantine kids at home who can't stay by themselves, yet she has to work to provide for them. Tough is when an already short-staffed employer deals with when that single mother can't come to work because she can't afford a babysitter to watch her quarantine kids. I've heard those who have opposed you say you should have courage. Placating because it's easy is not courage. Courage is doing what's right even when it's tough and not popular. I wish there was another option, but as I understand it, we only have 2. We all want the same things. We all want our kids in school. And unfortunately, as I see it, the mask is the only option. Lastly, I'd like to commend you for your recent contract extension given to our superintendent. I know that may not also be popular, but I've seen the anguish this man has carried over the last year and issues over the years, and he has handled them admirably. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Daniel Everhart.
Hello, my name is Daniel Everhart. I'm a parent of 2 kids at Southwestern Randolph High School. One is a senior, the other is a freshman. First off, I'd like to say that I'm not a believer of masks, as you can see. I did not wear one tonight. I'm not here to debate that because my understanding there's not a place, nor does the board have the power to change the toolkit provided by the state on their belief of if the mask works or not. To my understanding, the board has 2 choices, either mask mandate, in which the kid that has tested positive goes home, or mask optional, in which we go back to contact tracing. The first being a mask mandate. This is where the state recognizes that the kids are in masks and only the positive case will be quarantined. The other is mask optional, where the state looks at it as if no kids are wearing masks and contact tracing begins. With this option, a kid in the front right of the classroom could test positive, and another kid in the back left wearing a mask would have to go home as well for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This doesn't seem quite right to me. Like I said before, I'm not for masks, but if these are the only 2 options you guys have the power to decide on, then your job is to keep kids in school. I think if the policy was mask optional and quarantine policy was the same as mask mandate, that would be ideal for everyone involved. But I'm not sure that's the case. If we go to mask optional and go back to contact tracing, what do we say to the kid that gets sent home that is struggling in math at school? What do we say to the kid that's fighting depression that needs to be around other kids and counselors and teachers that's keeping this kid functioning daily? Do we say, you'll be all right, it's only 10 or 12 days of isolation, you will be fine? Your job is to keep kids in our schools. Our job as parents is to fight to give you more choices from the state. That means we need to be in contact with our representatives till we get the answers to why the mask policy is the way it is. So in closing, if the 2 choices are the ones I mentioned, choice A or choice B, Each member knows that their job is to keep as many kids in school as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis Woodard.
Hello, I'm Travis Whitaker. I will not repeat everything they just said. I'm against the mask 100%. With that being said, I want my kid in school. As a former Eastern Randolph Wildcat myself, my daughter that went there last year, the last 2 years, cared nothing for the school. She didn't get the experience like other kids do. So when you send kids home, you don't know where you're sending them. Our side of the county is a little different than other sides of the county. Our Hispanic rate's high, our African American rate's high. I've got employees that work for me, all went to Eastern Randolph from different backgrounds. I've got one employee that made the comment, the only place he ever felt safe was school. He said, I was the first person there, last person to leave. So you're gonna send kids home that don't know what, if they're gonna eat. They've got lots against them that other kids may not. Some kids go home, get to play a video game, have fun. Some kids don't. Some kids go home, they don't come back. We've done seen that. Depression was brought up. My youngest kid had a really tough time being at home. Very struggled, went from a straight A student to really struggling. Got depressed. We had to deal with that. That's not fun. She's back in school this year, 180-degree difference. I mean, she's just smiling when she comes home. I don't want to see that taken away. We've got, as a former athlete, I know what athletics mean. It doesn't mean a lot to some people. I would have never went to college without athletics. We've got kids in that situation. Southwest is on their way to the state championship, I hope in volleyball, as well as Eastern Randolph in football. So you're saying it's all right just to pull that out of them kids. They go home, they're sent home, half the team sent home, their football season's over. Some they will work and fought for all year, now it's taken away. Volleyball the same way. So there's more that here than just, I'm against the mask. Anybody in here knows me, I don't wear a mask. If I have to, I'll wear a mask. My kid, I talked to the athletes before I left Eastern Randolph this evening. What's y'all's opinion? This is the kids. They said if we don't have an option, we'll wear a mask if we get to continue to play sports, come to school, and hang out with our friends. They said if the other option is I'm going to be sent home and not have that, then I'll wear the mask at school. I think y'all done a good job, especially talking to other counties as far as being sent home. So, in my opinion, and the kids at Eastern Randolph, and I'm also speaking for kids at Providence Grove because I did speak to them. They were a couple of parents were trying to come, they couldn't get away. Speaking to those kids, if you want to hear what kids have to say in high school, go ask them. They want to stay at school. If it means wearing a mask while they're at school, it sucks, but they got to wear a mask. If I go in certain businesses in Greensboro, I hate a mask, I have to wear a mask. But that's my stand on it. Thank you.
Rebecca Sams.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Sams. I've got 2 students that are in high school. I first want to foremost say thank you, each one of you, for the ESSER funds that has gone to the COVID prevention. We have now more teachers and more janitors, and I think that is honestly in the right direction that we are going. However, I am against masks. According to Raleigh, October 27th, they stated that they're not going to enforce the schools to mandate masks anymore, and I am for that. We currently have 7 counties that do not have mask mandates, and they're doing just fine. In September 13th, it was reported at our highest case reading at 378 cases a week of COVID were people that tested positive. Now in October, we are at 79 people a week. That is not a lot, but it's still a good amount. However, this is not affecting kids, it's affecting adults. 0 reports for the last 3 days, and I think that's funny because we just had Halloween, and I would think that we would have more kids testing positive, but in the last 3 days we have had none. So the I want to kind of tie on what these gentlemen said. I have 2 children that have been sent home since August, since we've mandated these masks, sent home because they come in contact with people that tested positive for COVID. So as far as the contact tracing, that's a lie. You guys are still sending your children home, even with mandating masks. My children are suffering. Yes, I'm a little bit nervous, I'm sorry. But my children are suffering just as much as all these other people. We need to make a decision and stand firm in it. Either we are going to have masks and we are not going to send our children home, or we are not going to have masks and we will send our children home, and then it's up to the parents to teach the children. A lot of these people can go home and teach their children, but I, like the other people, like my children in school. I want them to have the social activities. I want them to have the choice, the freedoms that we have in America. We are one nation under God. Let's put this in order. Be the county that goes along with these other counties, and let's make a stand. Randolph County is one of the biggest counties in North Carolina. Let's make a stand. We back you, we support you in whatever you decide, because honestly, we have no choice other than electing you as our officials. But we want you to make the right decision that's best for our children, whichever way that is, and we support you. Thank you.
Kathy Sumner.
Hello, my name is Kathy Sumner. I know several of you. I was a teacher at Wigmore High School for 15 years before I did resign, because now my husband takes care of me. Thank you, husband. But with that being said, once an educator, always an educator. The 4 years since I've quit, I've gone back and did 1 semester positions. And the last time I was in the school, it was during COVID, and the last 3 times I subbed was the last time I said I would walk into the school, because I left in tears. I saw the kids that were there. This was during the AB days. I saw the kids that were there in the mask, and they would not speak, because it is so hard to speak. And as a teacher, it's hard to teach when you have the mask on. So yes, I'm definitely against masks. The depression and suicide rates in this county for teenagers was up 300% since 2019. And that's not entirely just because of masks, but that's because of everything going on with COVID, I realize. But the kids they're not learning because they're sitting in front of a computer, because of the teachers having to teach those that are sitting at home as well, and the ones that are sitting in the classrooms. It's not teaching, and it's not learning. And this happens even with the mask, because as already said, contact tracing is still going on, and kids have chosen to stay at home, so teachers are still having to do 2 jobs, a lot of them, and I feel for that. And as a former teacher, if that would have happened before I quit, I would have quit then, because you can't teach that way. What I am asking, and I don't know if it's possible, what I am asking is for no mask and no contact tracing. I'm asking for both. Because the contact tracing, all it does is send healthy students and healthy teachers home. And what are the healthy students doing while they're at home? They're not doing their schoolwork. The kids did not get any education the last year and a half, I promise you. I know children right now in college that are flunking out because their senior year they learned nothing. Because they were at home most of the time, or it was their choice to be home, and they still didn't get online and do their work. We need to stand up at some point. It's a slippery slide, folks. And I don't know what your decision is going to be, but whatever it is, I will support you 100% as a former educator, as an educator in my heart. But I love the kids, and I really, really would hate to see them live in masks from now on when they can go to a concert without one.
Chris Williford.
Good afternoon. Spoke with all of you a couple of times here. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. Once again, as far as the money and the extras that you're doing to keep our faculty and custodians afloat in this trying time, we appreciate that, okay? So, the school board has one employee, is that correct? It's Dr. Gainey, right? He answers to the school board, not the other way around. We need to make sure that we remember that, right? Because you guys are Dr. Gainey's boss. He doesn't tell you what's going to happen. You guys collectively are his employers. You tell him what happens, right? So what bothers me is you've got people with very scripted statements up here, okay? Very scripted. We're not stupid. We know what's going on, okay? I've told you guys before, we'll stand with you if you do what's right, not what we think is right. Can you fix my time, please?
All I can do is pull it through.
It's just not electrifying personality.
You're probably good without it. You're good without it.
Let's.
Oh, it's open mic night. Uh-oh.
Sorry. I'll see if I can get somebody to come fix that.
Can we fix my time back?
Yep. I'm just.
At 2:21, please.
Give me just a second.
There we go. Yeah. All right, so what I was saying, you know, what truly bothers me and bothers a lot of people out here, you guys shouldn't even be discussing the masks. That's not your place, that's the parents' place. If they want them to wear a mask, cool, put a mask on your kids, send them to school, be done with it. It's not your place is to educate our kids. That's what we elect you to do. That's what we're going to hold you accountable to do. The contact tracing, all that, all you're doing is penalizing kids and their families for no reason. Throw that stuff out the window. Stand up, have a spine, stand up to, you know, the state, Dr. Cohen, you know, Roy Cooper, whoever. Stand up. You got people standing with you. 100%. We will stand with you. I promise you. And no matter what your decision is, I told you before, you should always put these children's education and their futures first. O'Brien, Gary, Dr. Gainey, Mr. Burgess, Ms. Farlow, Ms. Bowles, Ms. Sink, all of them. You didn't have to go through this as kids. We didn't go through this. It would be unspeakable for this stuff to happen during our childhood, because our parents would have went ham. I know my folks would have. And it's putting a bunch of us parents in the point where we're going to have no other option. All right? You know, and we were given a word 2 weeks ago that the mask will be voted on tonight. All right? And that word will be upheld. We're going to get resolution tonight because we're tired of going back and forth. All right? It's not your place to put these masks on the kids. It's the parents' place. And if you look around this room, I counted, minus the media, I counted 7 masks in this room right now. That right there should tell you what your community is wanting. The people who elected you is what we want. I'll say it again. We'll stand with you 100%. Just do what's right.
Noah Steels.
That microphone gold, that's probably. That power button's on.
That's your mic, correct? It should be.
It's got to go. It's got to go. We're having a meeting.
Just get it up.
Is this one? I'm petrified. I've actually been on the other side of a soundboard when you actually have to sing and play a song and that thing starts squealing and hollering at you. So it's like getting shocked by an electric fence. Dr. Gainey, Chairman, and distinguished board members, I thank you again for the opportunity to come out and address you guys. I do have a couple questions. If you could answer these, that'd be great. Dr. Gainey, I think they're actually really specific to you, but the board can answer them. Dr. Gainey, have you of Randolph County School System been issued a Chapter 138 order from the NC Department of Health or Human Services? Yes or no? Take that as a no. Dr. Gainey, have you and Randolph County School System been awarded a Chapter 138 order from the Randolph Health Department?
Need answer.
Dr. Gainey, have you or Randolph County School System been issued a 130 from any other governing body? Dr. Gainey, are you, do you have a medical license? Today we have an incredible opportunity to throw off unlawful mandates and place our focus back on education. I'm looking forward actually to a partner with this board and our community. I'm looking forward to focusing on the things that unite us, not divide us. I'm looking forward to learning more about education and using my energies to get others involved so that we grow together. We have wasted much time. It is time to return to normal. We can do just that. Each one of us can just make the decision that we no longer can be scared of the boogeyman and that we must not be afraid of living. At any time, we can push back on the fear-mongering that's actually pushed down on us, and then we again can stand up as community members and stand strong together. I believe that we can be thankful for COVID because it brought our attention, it brought my attention specifically and the attention of the community that our school board needs help. That our kids are in a desperate situation right now, and they need help. So I vow before you today, as long as I'm a member of this community and have the physical and mentality faculty, which is questionable now, that I will continue in the attendance of Board of Education meetings, and I will do my best to make it a positive contribution and look forward to the day that we can focus on educating our kids, not scaring them. The second to God, only second to God, our only hope for a good future in a community, in our state, in our nation, is our kids. It's all we got. Folks, today we say no to fear. We say no to the tyrants that push down unlawful mandates. And we say yes to a community. We say yes to embracing and loving one another. We say yes to educating our kids. We say no to quarantine. We say no to contact tracing. And we say no to masks. Thank you so much.
Test, test, test.
Noah Steels.
My name is Noah Steels, and I'm a student at Southwest Randolph High School. Let me open your eyes to what's happening on the inside. Let me show you that you don't even believe in what you're enforcing. Lunch is something that everyone looks forward to because it's time where you can socialize and just talk to people. Not for us. We're just isolated and stuck away from everybody. While you all have the freedom to go eat lunch with whoever you please. The only thing in your curriculum is fear. Just think, in 20 years or so, the surgeons are going to be the group of kids that you're raising now, which are not getting the quality education that they need because you are all too concerned about a virus that has a minimum effect on the youth. It's scary to think that the surgeon that has their life in your hands, that has your life in their hands, was taught nothing but fear as a kid. I could go on, but I trust that this board will get our school system back to where it was and the way it should always be. Thank you for your time.
Kurt Melvin.
Does this thing work if I stand right here?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm not here to talk to them. I'm here to talk to the families of Randolph County because you guys all deserve better. You deserve better than a superintendent that's going to sit here in silence when he's asked a question. That's getting paid $200,000. So I'm here because right now Asheboro City residents are voting on their Board of Education. And I think that's awesome. But next November, we get that chance. And I'm going to be on that ballot. I'm going to be there because, guess what? It doesn't stop at masks. What's next? Vaccine mandates? We continue the contact tracing, critical race theory, sexualization of our kids. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting. So we're gonna all work together next November, and we're going to vote 2 or 3 of these people out of here that need to go because they've already sold our kids out on the masks. So what are they going to sell out on next? Kurt Melvin, Randolph Board of Education, 2022.
Have you ordered your signs yet? I'll pick one up.
Are you endorsing it?
This mic working. Can you hear me at all?
I'm trying to keep it below $1,000.
Okay, Gary Underwood.
Take the time to say thank you for giving us this opportunity. As far as the contact tracing, I'm here to tell you it's still going on. I still receive calls from my school weekly that my children or some other children have been exposed. So as a parent of 2 kids in Level Cross Elementary, they don't wear a mask and they haven't this whole time. I'm not here to argue over a mask, but I believe it should be a parent's choice. Why am I speaking against this when my children ain't wearing a mask is the question I get asked all the time. I'm doing this because I'm fighting for their freedom and other children's freedom because apparently some parents don't want to stand here and fight for that.
Amen.
So, by all means, if you want to wear a mask, please wear it. But don't tell me or any other individuals that we don't have a choice. The science behind the mask doesn't make sense on how you ask the kids to wear the mask at the beginning of their day to the end of their day, but can return to the same environment for a sporting event, whether it be inside or outside, without wearing a mask. At the end of the day, a mask offers no protection. That's the real science behind it. We're coming up on 2 years with this nonsense of wearing a mask, social distancing, quarantining healthy children because of exposure. Because you think you're protecting them, in all reality, you're only hurting them. Just in Randolph County alone, we've had 3 suicides over all this nonsense, which is more deaths than COVID have claimed since this has started, because COVID has claimed 0 deaths. in Randolph County. The mental distress and the depression that these children are experiencing because of all this going on, they're turning to drugs and alcohol. They can't have a normal setting, like Noah said, eating lunch with their friends, having a prom, etc. Was any of that taken from y'all? No. Wasn't for me either. Has any of you taken the time to actually look at the test scores across Randolph County? They're extremely low. That's enough to depress you within itself. Maybe those scores can come back up if we spend more time in educating our kids and less time in having principals and teachers figuring out how many children one child has come in contact with for more than 15 minutes, more than within 6 feet with a mask. So all those children can be sent home for 10 days. Because all that makes perfect sense. I know the vote is on the mask tonight, but I say do away with the edicts of the mask, social distancing, quarantining, and let our kids get back to a normal life and build a natural immunity. Really hope you can open your eyes and to see what's really going on here. Thank you.
Leslie Dunn.
Hey, my name is Leslie Durham. Thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I have 2 children currently in the Randolph County school system. I will have 2 more coming up, hopefully, as long as they're not homeschooled after all this goes on. I want to actually ask sincerely, do any of you currently have children in the Randolph County school system? That makes perfect sense as to why you voted the way you voted. And that in itself is very frustrating. Since you called the meeting for this, and I appreciate you doing that to let us have a vote on this and to speak our mind, I've seen a couple of you in public. I don't know a lot of you. I'm very new to all of this. Like Edward, my eyes have kind of been open to how crazy things are, and that we have like freedom to come and speak to you and to help y'all make decisions, which is needed, very, very needed. I have seen Gary, and I applaud you for not wearing a mask tonight, after seeing all the people, especially you, Dr. Gainey, who pull their mask down when you speak. It makes no sense. And y'all are putting kids in masks that aren't, you are old enough to know how to use a mask. You don't use a mask because you're not in healthcare, which when all this started, we were discouraged to use a mask, if you all remember that. Now we're putting my kindergartner, who can't not lick her fingers after she touches the floor, in a mask and expect her not to do the same thing. So I have a lot of frustration because I've seen you in public, because I pass by your business every single day because you're in my community. You have no mask. You speak to people. I played an alumni basketball game a couple weeks ago. Coach Sink, you were there. You were a big part of the school when I was in school. And it was the alumni, all of us old people who didn't have these liberties taken away from us, playing basketball with no masks. I watched you walk in because you probably hadn't seen a lot of these people in a long time. Hug these people.
Amen.
No mask.
Amen.
That's okay. I understand that. I just wish that you could understand. You don't have to have a mask on for this meeting. All you have to do is stand up and represent yourself in the way you represent yourself in your community. Amen. We will support you on this. I want you to understand, my kid, I feel like they're smart. My kindergartner is struggling with reading because she can't see her teacher's face. And that's the news that I was delivered this week, if you haven't looked at your test scores. Thank y'all.
Iris Wright.
Hey, Mr. Cook. First of all, I want to thank the board for your time,
Secondly, I want to say I'm sorry that you've been saddled with the health care decisions for children whenever your position really should be educating our children. This should never have been on your shoulders. And really, I do apologize. I don't know why I'm apologizing, but I'm sorry that this has all been rolled downhill. You know, they say poop rolls downhill. So, in my opinion, it came directly from the governor's office. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I have 13 pages here of research that I found today. And I read through all of it, and all of it links back to articles that you can pull up if anybody wants it. And I'm not going to bore all of you with reading it, but basically all of these scientists, all of these psychologists, all of these doctors are saying masks are damaging our children. They're not doing anything. They're damaging our children. I don't have a child in Randolph County schools anymore. My kids are grown. My son graduated in the spring. You know, he was one of the lucky ones that was a senior last year. But Randolph County Schools is full of children that I love. And I'm telling you, we are damaging an entire generation. I had a speech written out. I'm not going to read it all, but I'm going to tell you this. This study in Germany, they studied 26,000 children. 60% of the mask wearers showed stress levels of the highest grade, 10, on a scale of 1 to 10. Less than 10% of the mask wearers surveyed had a stress level lower than 8. This was in Germany. I know that children are children all over the world. My frustration is that the United States was founded on freedom. We are free to worship Christ. The people came here because they wanted to worship the Lord the way they saw fit. And the whole foundation of this country is built on that freedom. And there are countries throughout this world that have said no more masking for our kids, no more contact tracing. It starts right here, right now, in Randolph County. It can spread throughout the whole state, and then it can spread throughout the whole country. And we can show our children that we are willing to stand up, and we are willing to fight for them, fight for their future, and fight for their freedom.
Lane Moore.
Appreciate you guys giving me a chance to come up and speak. I've been teaching for 24 years at Eastern Randolph, taught here for 13 years at night, and did other things like that. Appreciate Mr. Sink. He put a whooping on my team the other week. It was 5-5 in a tie. But I want to let you know something. I appreciate him putting his mask on. His team's still playing right now. The reason he's got his on, okay, if somebody in here happened to be positive, he's got his on. He probably doesn't like having it on. I'm sure he doesn't like having it on. I know it. Okay? But I appreciate what he does for kids. All right? We can all get mad at everything that's got a situation that the governor's put us in. Fine. Y'all all want to complain about the governor? Fine. Okay. But the cards they've got right now are either masked or not.
No man.
Hey, let me see it. They get a chance. Hey, hold it. They're going to get a chance. I appreciate what y'all have done. I've had to drive a school bus on a day in which we didn't have enough school bus drivers. They came begging me, please, will you drive the bus? If I didn't drive the bus for 3 days, our school was going to get shut down. The next week, we did get shut down. For a whole week, we weren't in school. All right? We we didn't have enough employees to be able to get things done. That's just a fact. Well, that's just a fact the way it is. I know I've got kids who come into my classroom who have been sick beyond the normal sickness. I know it. It's not anecdotal coming from somebody else. It's coming from those kids. I've seen it in adults. It's real. As far as freedom goes, people, I'm teaching about right now. Stop the spread of communism. Okay, that's where I'm at in my U.S. history class. Just remember something else. George Washington forced everybody at Valley Forge that was in his army. He forced every one of them to take the smallpox vaccination. Remember, this is history. Hey, this is history. Hey, listen, it doesn't take away from our freedom. Those men right there had to make a choice. You won't give me no shot. I'm serious.
Not 6 months.
That's the fact.
Everybody, let him have his vote.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it. Ma'am, I appreciate what y'all do. I know it's a tough choice. Whatever you choose, I appreciate it. I'm going to ask what my students have asked me. Please keep them in.
Here's the reading material. The people have the power. Everybody got their stuff.
Natasha Bird.
Natasha Bird.
This is actually my first school board meeting that I've come to. You gotta start somewhere. Earlier today, and I think this kind of triggered a little something in me, and I'm going to get to the mask because this is something that I've seen happen literally today, and it kind of contradicts what we're trying to do here. As I'm taking my child to elementary school this morning, there's a lot of political signs out in front of the school. And as I'm going through the line, cars parked, people walking in front of me, going into our gym to vote today. Okay? One is, school was in session. Our kids were inside that school today.
We're not allowed.
Never in the last 10 years that I have been affiliated with a school that was a poll school has school been in session while our children, while they were doing these voting. Okay? We had probably hundreds to thousands. My school was not the only school that was open today. And people were coming in that school. And everybody knows up here, you cannot enforce the mask mandate, and not everybody that was entering my child's school today was wearing a mask. But yet and my school's locked up. I have to ring a bell to be able for them to open the door, and I have to put my mask, but yet we leave one side of the school open for people to be coming in all day long.
Make it make sense.
That makes no sense. That makes absolutely, I cannot eat lunch with my children. I cannot volunteer in the classroom in which I have always volunteered in my schools. I have always been a hands-on mom. We have, there is a school, Braxton Craven, it's vacant. It was never used. Never used. Teachers were walking around trying to get around voters today. They're going to our bathrooms. They were frustrated. They shouldn't have been there to begin with today, and I don't know who approved that. But we can't have that.
if you're going to have the mask mandates, it needs to be for everything. It can't be for a political party.
Yep, that's right.
That it's okay to just come into a school without a mask and not be okay for me to set foot in my school, which I cannot even go in.
Thank you. I'm gonna comment on that. You know something? You're so busy. We've been so consumed dealing with what we're dealing with. I actually forgot about that today.
And not one RSO officer was at
You're talking
our
about
school
Hopewell.
today. Yet not one RSO officer or law enforcement was at our school today while we had strangers coming into that school all day long.
Six figures, that's what you get. 6 figures.
There was a safety hazard as well as health hazard.
Thank you, Gary, for manning up and saying that you made a mistake. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Next, we're gonna, I think we have a video that was sent in. Is it ready or?
My name is Katie Moore. And I'm Carly Eberhardt, and we're seniors at Southwest Randolph High School. We couldn't attend the meeting tonight, but we wanted to send y'all this video so our voices would be heard. We've missed so much over the last 2 years due to the pandemic, and this school year started to finally feel normal. Even though we had to wear a mask, it kept us in school and it kept us learning. With the removal of masks comes the unnecessary risk of quarantining, and we don't want that to affect our in-person learning and our school events. So we've compiled this video of students all over the county to give y'all a perspective of a student. We thought it was really important for y'all to hear from the people who are actually going to be affected by the choices made tonight. Thank you.
My name is Sean Atkins. I'm a junior at Southwestern Randolph High School, and I think it would be a smart decision to continue to wear masks in school so the basketball season does not get postponed and we don't have to cancel any games or quarantine.
My name is Dory Luther, and I am a junior at Eastern Randolph High School, and I don't mind wearing masks to school if it lets us go to all the events we missed out on last year.
Hi, my name is Desiree. I'm a senior on Eastern Randolph High School. I think we should keep masks because we protect each other. We can sit together and we can do.
I'm Cameron Everhart, and I'm a freshman at Southwest, and I don't mind wearing masks because it keeps me in school.
My name's Skylar. I'm a junior at Eastern Randolph High School, and I think we should keep wearing masks so we don't get sent home and we can keep playing our sports.
Hi, my name is Grace, and I'm a senior at Providence Grove High School. I don't mind wearing a mask if it means we can stay in school and continue to attend all the events that we have missed the last 2 years due to the pandemic. Please consider the memories we get to make and don't take these away. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Zoe. I'm a junior at Eastern Randolph, and I think we should keep wearing our masks because we've already missed out on lots of opportunities and we want a normal school year.
I'm Christy King. I go to Southwest Randolph High School. I'm a sophomore, and I don't mind if I have to wear a mask as long as I have a normal basketball season and no quarantine and a good year.
Okay, thanks to everyone. It just don't sound like this thing. I guess it is.
You're good. Michael will turn you up. He's in the booth back there.
Thanks to everyone for sharing your comments tonight. Ready, guys?
Able to conduct its business.
One of them had a t-shirt on that said illegal.
Well, if they got that choice, that's fine, if they don't,
Okay.
the kids won't stay in school.
Let me share you guys, let me tell you what happened with the health department, and we'll go from there. Yes, you, okay, I'm gonna let Dr. Danny, do you want to go first or me? Okay. I think it's important that you guys listen to this. You know, I'm watching the videos, and first of all, I want those kids in school. And I think it's important, and I appreciate them willing to wear the mask. And most of them are to stay in school if you would ask the kids and not the parents. But we also, I think it's time, when I read this letter, and I'll tell you what's happened, it's time that, I guess, so to speak, we take it back.
Yeah.
And we can make it happen. I asked the health department 2 weeks ago to step up. Let's do your job. Quarantine, you have it. Look after contact tracing. Let's step up to the plate, do your job. You mandate the mask if you think that's what we need to do. Take it out of our hands. We were tired of getting, quite frankly, I'm tired of being the bad guy. I'm tired of having them dump in our lap. I'm tired of the governor. I asked a friend of mine that works real close with the governor to have the governor to call myself and Dr. Gainey. We wanted to talk about it. It's been a month and a half. You know what? We got no response whatsoever. And, you know, that bothers me. And so the health department, this board sent a letter, and I'm going to read the letter to you. It says, I'm writing on behalf of the Randolph County Board of Education to request additional action and information from the Randolph County Board of Health. At our meeting on October 18, 2021, the Board of Education considered once again the status of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the children and the staff of the Randolph County school system. However, we were not elected to set public health policy or standards, to give health advice to the citizens of this county, or to protect and promote public health. The role of the Board of Education is to provide educational opportunities to every child. We are therefore writing to the Board of Health to request that you set health policies for our local community. If in your judgment, as the body responsible for protecting the public health, wearing cloth face covering is necessary and important to protect the public health, then please provide the clear direction to the Board of Education. If it is acceptable that cloth face coverings be optional in your judgment for the public health needs of our community, then please provide that information to the Board of Education. Pointing to the statewide toolkit in which cloth face coverings are recommended but not required is quite confusing and unclear. Please provide clear direction on this issue. The Board of Education will meet again on November the 2nd, 2021 to discuss whether to modify the current policy requiring face coverings in school. We ask that you provide a response to our request no later than October the 29th, 2021, so the board can consider any policies or directives of the Randolph County Board of Health in this decision. Okay, that was sent to the director of the health department and all the board members. I had a conversation with one board member, went very well. The health director, department director, did call Dr. Gainey, and she met with him in his office. And I wasn't there, but it was, he didn't really get any real direct answers at all either. It's basically, I cannot support that, follow the toolkit. So I didn't hear anything, so the middle of last week, I reached out to the health department director to try to get something clear, and basically where do we stand? What are you gonna do? Are you guys gonna mandate masks? What can we do? I made a few suggestions, you know, what if we do this? What if we do that? I can't remember a whole lot about the conversation, but the main thing, I cannot support that. I cannot support that. I cannot support that. I cannot support. Really, follow the toolkit. You just follow the toolkit. Well, she was going to come tonight, and I know she's in the state health department. They're pushing, and everybody's wanting to pass the buck, but the buck's got to stop somewhere, and I'm tired of stopping. I asked her not to come tonight because it's no need, because whatever we do or whatever we talk about, decide, it's not the right answer. It's not to be supported. So there's what happened after the letter. Basically, nothing. No other board member. No one reached out. I was disappointed. I mean, there's doctors. There's pretty important people. From my knowledge, that letter pretty much meant nothing, and that's a fact. So this is me again speaking, and I'm gonna. Do you want to? Let me start. Do you want to go before the board? Do you want to talk? Okay. Well, I'm going to finish this, and we'll let. Let's just let them go, okay? If we can. I think it's time that we start to look at a plan put together with, good common sense people. And I'm going to give you one example that really sticks out. And there's several. I'm not going to try to hog the show. I'll let other people share their concerns, and I want Dr. Gainey to share his concerns. But an example that sticks out for me, we've been living the last, 2.5 months, 3 months, universal mask. If everyone is wearing a mask, no one goes home but the positive. But if you're not wearing if we're not universal, you can wear a mask. But if the whole place is not universal, my understanding, then you're going to go home with a mask on. That absolutely makes no sense at all. I mean, it's like you're questioning really the mask works. I mean, I don't get it. If you're wearing a mask, it's just like athletics or whatever you want to. If you're wearing a mask and you believe that's what's going to keep you in school, it should keep you in school. If you're wearing a mask, you should be safe. It's optional, but I know kids worried about going home or missing, and they shouldn't. I would hate football team, ER, Southwest, some of these great teams. I don't want those kids to miss anything this year. They deserve that, and they've worked all their life for that. So, if we were optional masks, and those kids that wore a mask, athletics, that whole team, they should not be sent home. That's just, I don't know where they get that in a toolkit, but that's just, we got to step up to the plate.
That's right.
But, you go ahead, and I'm going to go back to the board. That's all I have to say, really. But you go ahead, and I know Fred's got some concerns, and I won't let all board members have a chance to speak. But I just wanted to finish what I had, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. I want to share some information. If you would, Sheena, if you could bring up the chart. Board members, I just want to talk and kind of walk through where we are and where some of our data is now. I want to start by two positives that I feel like with every passing day is getting lost more and more in the conversation, in that we have been going to school since day one, 5 days a week, all students at the same time. And we have had our extracurricular activities. And since I brought this up months ago. I want to be very clear, because I've been questioned about this. And every time I brought it up, extracurricular activities, yes, involve athletics. They also involve chorus. They also involve band, hunter safety, Skills USA competitions. And we've been able to do all those as we did prior to the pandemic. Yes, we did lose eating in the cafeteria after week 1. Hopefully we can get back to that. But I do want to show where our data is and where we've been since we started with the universal mask. The first week was right there, just stop right there. That's the first week of school. The second column from the left is 81. The highest number of positive cases we had in any given week last year, 2021, was 89. That was the week after we came back from the December break. If you scroll down, you'll see our numbers continue to rise, 150, 175. Now we're beginning to go backwards a little bit, but the second to last column is equally important. The second week, scroll back down a minute, Sheila. This first week of school, when we didn't wear cloth face coverings universally, we had it optional, we sent 530 students home. The next week, when we had them home, 956, 711 of those were carryovers before we had the universal cloth face coverings. Now scroll on down. Look at that column, 105, 52, 107, 83. These are exposures to positive cases at school. Scroll on down, Sheila, if you will, please.
The general numbers are down.
And here we stop. Here's the last couple weeks. 28, 10, 26, 48. So our numbers have improved.
In the hospital too.
And so I just wanted to show you that, where we are. Now people are saying, well, how are people still being sent home? Well, it could be from athletics, because in extracurricular activities, we are not requiring cloth face coverings, and that is in the toolkit that we keep getting referenced to in the state of North Carolina. Also, we may have students who are, they have a mask exemption. We also could have situations at PE. If you remember on September 2nd, we said that at PE we would not require them when children were engaged in physical activity. I want to be really clear with everybody as well. Board members, last March 2021, I really would love to have had the opportunity after watching what I've been watching. Yes, I agree. I wish we had been doing something different for the last 19 months, but we did what we had to do to take care of schools and keep schools open. And I will always be proud of, we were one of the only school systems that opened in August 2020, while many others sat at home. Our numbers have gotten better. And I will say, I would have loved to have been able to send home 1-for-1s, what I call it. The positive child goes home. I pushed for that. I had that conversation again the other week. When are we going to get to that, where only the positive person goes home? We have not been given that clearance by the state. And the conversation that's going on right now is, yes, there is contact tracing. It's much less than it was early on. It's much less than it was last year. Because if we put on the cloth face coverings universally, we could get in a situation of sending 1-for-1. So, I just want to share that did not exist. The option we've had this year of universal cloth face coverings and sending only the positive home did not exist last year. So we're better than we were last year. I agree. Mr. Cook, I agree with you. I don't like rules. I don't like the cloth face coverings. I don't like it. But when you tell me that I'm going to possibly send home 500 to 1,000 students a week, or we can all put on cloth face coverings, then the strategy I'm going to have to go to is what the state holds us to, because our school system has a lot of liability here. It has a lot of liability. We've not had a child get as sick as where we've had on some other situations with adults. So, board members, I'll leave you with this. I want to read something to you. And I want to read, I have been a high school and middle school principal. And I will tell you, is when I went to be an assistant superintendent in another school system, the first interview I went to, the interview committee said to me, they asked me this question, said, it's all over this school system that the kids make you go. You don't stay in your office, you're out among the kids. I had a school of 1,200 kids and I had a school of 2,600 kids. Middle school is 1,200, high school of 2,600. 800 student cars, 50 buses, you name it, we had it. And I believe my job was to be out among those kids and know those kids. So in this interview, went a little bit, and this guy says, what are you going to do if you come to central office and you don't have kids around you? And I can remember saying, I don't know, and I'm not going to make up an answer to get this job. If you hire me in this job, I'll figure it out along the way. And I tell you that story because kids have always been number one in my heart. Yes, I have 2 kids in the Randolph County school system. I nodded my head when I was asked. I don't interact in public comment, for the record. Never have, never will. Public comment is to get feedback from the community. I have 2 kids in the school system. They're near and dear to me. One's a senior, one's a freshman. I love them to death, and I got thousands of other kids I've been in contact with over the last 29 years that I love to death too. So when it comes down to it, I've been home many nights since we had the last board meeting. What can we do different? Inside the rules of the state, because you know, I understand, but I understand where it's all going to fall, Mr. Cook. I told you a couple weeks ago. Whatever happens is probably going to fall on my feet. I love this school system. I love this county. No, I didn't grow up in this county, but I've been here 9 years and I love it. It feels like I've been here my whole life. And whatever happens is going to be on my feet, and I'm going to accept it. And I'm going to carry that load. But let me tell you something else I've noticed this fall. I think I heard Travis Whitaker or somebody talk about how football stadiums are full. I saw the Southwest Eastern game the other week. I go somewhere every Friday night. I'm sure some people know that now. I've been going somewhere every Friday night for 9 years. High school football, high school athletics are part of my life. My dad was a high school principal when I was born. He stayed there, same school until I was 30 years old. That's all I know. That's all I know. My mom was a high school teacher. So what I saw, and I've seen it all over this county, stadiums are full. Kids are happy. Student sections are bubbling. I've never seen school spirit. Now maybe somebody would tell me, you don't know what you're looking at. I do know what I'm looking at. Just ask the kids at my high school where I was principal. I know what school spirit looks like. School spirit has never been higher in this county, in my opinion, than I've seen this fall, when the kids got their access back to things, as people have said, that they lost. They lost their concerts. They lost their competitions with Skill USA. They lost their Beta Club competitions. They lost their dances. They lost a whole lot. And I had a front row seat to watch 2 of them in my house too. 2 of them sitting there. I remember last year. I remember clear as day, my little boy got quieter and quieter as we went through December. And I wondered what was going on. And the first night of basketball tryouts, I come in the kitchen, and it's late. He's waited up to tell me about tryouts. I believe that little guy didn't know if he'd get to have tryouts because that was the first middle school sport we opened last year. So I get it. I get it all. I'm going to read to you something, and this is about kids. And this is where I stand, and whatever comes out of this meeting tonight, I'm going to support. I'm going to run with it. I'm going to work with every community member, whether they like me or not. Because something I've told my kids since they were little, I didn't put them to bed as much as my wife did because of my job. They were born, I was a high school principal. But I used to tell them, whenever I put them to bed, be nice to everyone, even if they're not nice to you. It will carry you a long way in life. So whatever comes out tonight, we're going to run with it as hard as we can. But I'm going to read to you what my thoughts are on where we are and what this is about, because I believe this is about kids. As a principal, I didn't like the Sumner. I was very vocal about that. Schools were built for kids to be in them. So when the kids went home, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I was at 2 big schools, big facilities, no kids in them. So I'm always, I can tell you, I'm always going to go to the mat for the kids. And yes, I miss being a principal because I miss being around kids every day. I don't get to like I used to. So here's what I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to ask that I get to read this into the record, Mr. Cook, if you don't mind. My job as a superintendent to look after the best interests of all students and staff members at all times. So this is my recommendation. Effective November 3rd, which is tomorrow, the Randolph County School System continue to require the use of cloth face coverings by everyone, students, staff members, and any visitors, while inside a building in our school system or on a school system bus. However, a person would not have to wear a cloth face covering inside a building if in a work area alone, such as a classroom or separate office. Also, the use of cloth face coverings will not be required for extracurricular activities, both inside and outside of the building by students, staff members, or spectators. I recommend this plan be implemented through the end of the day on December 13th. With this recommendation, our school system can revisit our plan at the Board of Education meeting on 12/13/21. This issue needs more time, and our school system needs students back in school for 5 days per week where they belong. Our school system has received a lot of feedback, especially negative feedback, since the decision to require the use of cloth face coverings on August 29, 2021. However, with all this feedback, I question, and this is my own quote, but I put it in quotes, what students would lose if we risk the high quarantine rates associated with the optional use of cloth face coverings, end quote. If the state changes the rules on contact tracing, our school system can change our plan. But if not, our school system needs to hold to the present course, in my opinion. Is my opinion, what I've watched. My job as superintendent of the Randolph County School System is to, number one, protect the education of our students. Number two, protect the opportunities for our students. Number three, protect the safety of our students. Number four, protect the opportunities for our staff members to teach and help children. And number five, protect the safety of our staff members. I will not ignore these duties. The Randolph County School System has handled these tasks. All the staff, all the kids, all the parents. It's three groups that made us make it this far. But the Randolph County School System has handled these tasks like champions for the past 19 months with in-person instruction. Our students and staff members have worn cloth face coverings for 19 months. Thus I ask, this is my quote, but it's in quotes, why change now and risk losing opportunities for students and staff members, end quote. The Randolph County School System has prioritized keeping students in school for in-person learning within the state's rules during this pandemic. At this time, it is my recommendation that this priority remain as number one for our school system as we continue down our current path with the universal use of cloth face coverings. If we do not continue to require the use of cloth face coverings and the number of exclusions of students soar to high numbers like the first week of the school year, our teachers will have no choice but to return to teaching both ways, with students in person and remote at the same time. We only have 29 days of school between now and the December break. Why risk problems now instead of holding to the course and getting past this pandemic totally? Do we really want...
Let him finish, please.
Do we really want to risk students' opportunities in the classroom and outside of the classroom with events such as chorus concerts, band concerts, and athletic playoffs? I'm not going to get into the debate on the effectiveness of cloth face coverings. However, it is part of the rules that have to be followed per the state if we want to maximize our chances of keeping students and staff members in school. The month of November has 2 holidays. Large gatherings could lead to an increase in the number of positive COVID-19 cases.
Let him finish, please.
Furthermore, without the universal use of cloth face coverings, the level of anxiety among our students and staff members in terms of not knowing who could be excluded from school will only increase. The universal use of cloth face coverings is our only way to minimize the number of students and staff members excluded from school as long as the current rules from the state remain in place. As I said on August 29, 2021, and many times since that day, I do not want to wear called face coverings either. However, this action has been the only one capable of keeping our students and staff members in school while also complying with the state's rules. You know, board members, I've seen some exciting things in my career. I've seen them for 29 years. This is year 29. And I watched the other day at Southwestern Randolph High School on Saturday, I watched the team lose the first game. And somewhere in the first 10 points, if I remember right, they were behind. And they were playing a great opponent. And I sure hope they won tonight. And all of a sudden I saw a bunch of girls come together and decide that was their game and they were going to win the match. And boy, would I hate for something to happen. I can't explain the state rules either. I don't like them. I don't understand them. But here's the problem. We're bound to them. And my
They haven't responded.
They haven't responded, so we're not bound.
Come on, guys.
Mr. Hook, can I explain something? So the rules on excluding students from school are rules adopted by the Commission for Public Health. They're state rules. North Carolina General Statute 130A-25 says, any person who violates the rules adopted by the State Commission for Public Health is guilty of a criminal misdemeanor. So you all do not have authority to change these rules, number one. And number two, you cannot ask your employees or your students to violate the rules.
The hospital.
So those are the rules. I wanted to clarify that for you all. Sorry for interrupting you, Dr. King.
So what I saw Saturday was pretty incredible. And I'm looking forward to Friday night as 4 of our teams enter the state playoffs, which is one of the most special things in this state and in this country is the North Carolina State High School football playoffs. And I would surely hate for us to get in a situation where someone got excluded. And I got to see the first concert at Eastern Randolph High School I've seen in 19 months the other night. And it was fantastic in the brand new chairs we put at Eastern Randolph in the season. So, board members, that is my position on this. I promise you that whatever you decide tonight, my staff and I will take it and run with it as hard as we can. I just want to reiterate the part about the anxiety. Because I'm not talking about fear, Mr. Cook. I'm talking about kids not knowing from one moment to the next whether they were going to get sent home because of the rules of the state.
You know, we've had a good night so far. Let's don't mess it up at the end.
Any questions from the board, I'll answer any questions you might have.
I guess I'm going to turn it over for questions, board discussion.
Garrett, Mr. Cook, I'd like to speak. You know, I haven't spoken in a while, really, since the last meeting we really had here. I voted out of respect and tried to keep it cordial. But the problem is, we are currently, if we're breaking the law, we're breaking the law every day. Every day at our schools, if that's what we're saying. We're breaking the law because we're not doing it right. We know we're not doing it right. We come up, and I'm going to go back to graduation. I'm not addressing you, Dr. Kim, I'm addressing them. But we go back to graduation last year. I went to 2 graduations. I walked in the building. There's 3% of the people in the building with a mask on. No teachers, no staff, and we knew at that time we wasn't doing it right. We knew we wasn't doing it right. That's my problem. It doesn't make sense. If we say we're mask optional, it doesn't matter if the basketball team comes out with a hazmat suit on out of the car every day, and you know they're doing it, you got them on camera, you still say they got a quarantine. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. My problem is the whole time I've been with here is the hypocrisy of all of it. We know I've got teachers coming to me the other night. I'm at an event the other night. Teacher comes up, elementary, she's crying. She said, it's nasty. She said, I've got kindergartners and first graders with snot coming out their nose, coming all out, they're grabbing the mask. It's not right. We know they're not wearing it right. I've got 2 kids. When they're 6 and 7 years old, God bless them, maybe some of our boys when they're 15 years old, they're not going to do right. You know, they're just not going to do right. And it's not their fault. They're kids. We know they're not doing it. We know they're not wearing it. And I don't share everything with everybody. First week of school, I get a parent comes up, they call me and say, well, I walked in my classroom, nobody had a mask on, including the teacher. You know, and the thing is, so my daughter didn't do it. And the thing is, we know these things. We know it. And what we're doing, we're teaching our kids to lie. I've got one in college, plays college football, and by the grace of God, he's going to get up out of that bed and play again. At the college level, at the high school level, you know what we're saying as parents and coaches? Hey, you wasn't in that room. If he's got COVID, you wasn't there. You wasn't in here. You had your mask on. You didn't ride the car with it, and you know you did it. I live in Rochdale Trinity, Creekside Park. Every Friday night, there's 300 people up there. They're up there. They're not wearing masks. They're up there having fun. My kids are up there with them. We know what's going on. We know they're not wearing it properly. They're not doing it. We know they're not. There's no doubt they're not doing it right. So we know it. And we're saying, okay, well, as long as we say we're doing it, it's okay. Well, that's hypocrisy. We're teaching our kids to lie. And at the end of the day, all you got is your integrity. With your kids. I thought about it the other night. I'm going to use my son, and I'll start crying thinking about it. But when I was sitting there in the hospital after he was in there about 10 days, I was sitting there looking at him. And he's played football games, thousands of basketball games. None of you have ever chased athletics any more than I have. My son played 1,000 games. My daughter's played 1,000 games. He plays college football with every game. We love it. But I'm sitting there with him. He's in the hospital, and I'm looking at him. And at that time, whether he got the MVP in football or basketball or anything else, that didn't matter. You know what mattered? Was our relationship. I was sitting there, and I'm trying to comfort him. And I'm trying to show him that I'm a man of integrity and I got your back. Okay, so at the end of the day, we can't keep on doing this. We need to change the contact tracing. We need to stop lying. And the thing is the truth of the matter is word doesn't stop. Today it's a mask. We know Dr. Cohen, she said it the other day on TV, she said, we can take the mask off once we start getting more kids vaccinated. There's no way. I'm not doing it. Where does it stop at? I'm not doing it. Here's the deal. And I told Gary today, we talked. I said, you know what? They went down to the bottom. They thought they could go to the school board. They could pick on us. But you know what happens? I'm a real estate agent. When we build new houses, we dig down and we find bedrock. And it's solid. So we're not doing it. We're not doing it. They picked the wrong people. I'm a mask officer. We need to change our contact tracing rules, and that's it.
I think, we've always said, that as far as this vote about the mask code, there's a two-part vote. It's not just removing the mask or keeping the mask or mandating or making it optional. The second part is just as important as the first, which is how we quarantine, how we contact trace. And I have a proposal, motion, whatever I'd like to make that is not one. I actually kind of have two. One is absolutely against the toolkit, and one is mostly against the toolkit.
All right.
understand, we say that you have to answer to the state, answer to DPI. We feel we don't. And eventually, and we talked about this last, you and I, just a one-on-one conversation back last January, February. We said eventually, we've got to just send just the sick people home. And we can't keep sending. No, I do not want to send. Nobody wants to send the healthy people home anymore. And the one thing that everybody wants. I mean, this whole board, even though we've had split votes on this thing since ever, but the thing is that even though we've had split votes, we're all pretty much in agreement, you too, in agreement with us that we want the kids to be in school. And the way to keep them in school is obviously quit sending healthy ones home. One thing I do want is for the ones that are sick to not be in school. Because they cannot be. I mean, we can't have them there. Because the best way for a kid not to be quarantined, not to contract the virus, is not to be beside someone who has the virus. So send the ones that have the virus home. So I do have a motion, but I mean, any of the others want to have something to say first.
Well, and just to be clear, board members, you do not have authority to change the rules on exclusion from school.
Let me ask you.
The state changed their rules October 29th to get the power back to the counties individually. No law that's unconstitutional can be enforced. Amen. You guys are the member, like you said, we got you back. This needs to be done.
The problem is, we're given this authority by a couple of governing bodies who will not make a decision. And they tell us that, hey, here's your two options. Even though this option right here, I think Travis said earlier, it sucks. And it does. And so they won't make a decision, but they throw it in our lap and say, you make a decision, here's your two options. This one is really bad, and because you're going to send everybody home if you follow this one. And this one is pretty bad because we're going to make everybody in Brian's words, we're going to make everybody into hypocrites because we're wearing this so we can stay in school. Everyone's kids that put that video together, they all said the same thing. I want to be in school. I don't like the mask. I'll wear the mask if that's what it has to be for me to stay in school. So, but anyway, I don't. The thing is, even the ones there that are kind of arguing in the room, we all still want the same thing.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway. Go ahead, Gary. If someone said something.
I want everybody to say something. I was just thinking when you said that, we have a sheriff here tonight. An example. A year ago, Randolph County, weren't we mask mandated in businesses in different places? Not mine. Not all county. But some businesses and places or whatever it was, I forget. But we were something where it wasn't being enforced because there's just some things that's right. We had a district attorney, Andy Gregson. I know he wasn't prosecuting certain things because he just didn't believe in it. It was wrong. It was basically unconstitutional. In his opinion, it didn't make any sense. My whole thing is, if somebody don't stand up and put their foot down, we're going to get, my gosh, it's time. We can't, I'm sorry. How can we be afraid of these? You said we can't do it. Okay. Challenge them.
What are y'all going to do? What's the state going to do?
I just had enough of it. I'm telling you. I give the health department 2 weeks to take it out of our hands. They didn't do it. I think.
Can I ask one question? How many of these people that have been tested positive for COVID tonight? Does anybody have the facts? Because if it's not killing,
I make a motion that Randolph County.
Nobody has the numbers for contact.
I make a motion that Randolph County Board of Education follow changes to our face recovery policy. The Randolph County School System will now move to a mask and face covering optional policy for all students K through 12 and staff members during the entire school day and for any extracurricular activities located both inside and outside the school building. In accordance with this policy, our contact tracing and the need to quarantine will be as follows. Any staff member or student who tests positive for the COVID-19 virus will be quarantined for the recommended 10-day period. Number 2, the Randolph County School System will not contact trace positive cases any longer. It is the will of the Randolph County Board of Education to only quarantine positive cases. This policy will be effective November 15, 2021.
So, Mr. Burgess, with your motion, do we stop any dealings with children with symptoms? Because that's one of the
positive cases.
Positive case.
That's it. How about parents keep their sick kids home?
The motion is just positive cases. There are some things that we need to work out.
What you're saying is that if you're sick, it's just like before the pandemic. We're sick on,
well, no, it's not like before the pandemic, because before the pandemic, if I had the flu, didn't necessarily make me stay home for 10 days, but we were going to require somebody to stay. I understand.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying the parent has complete authority on whether to see his child.
We would have 13 days to kind of work out some kinks.
There's a few things we have to work out on this, like what you said.
And I agree with that, because you do need to have meetings with teachers and kids and parents, and how you're going to handle it. But I agree with the complete mask option.
Handle what? If I'm just handling the positive cases now, that's going to be, we get a lot of self-reporting from parents. There won't be any need for that at this point if y'all approve just positive cases, because we'll either get the notification of the positive case from the health department or what parents have been doing for 19 months, which has kept us out in front of all of this.
I would certainly, honestly, though, I think parents ought to, if you're symptomatic, I would like for parents to keep that going on. I think that's important. I mean, that they would let us know.
My motion is just for positive cases, not for symptoms.
That's right. That's right.
But you hope parents will continue to.
We won't have to know any more about symptomatic, because that'll be just like anything else.
There are some things that we're going to have to. There are some things I think we have to work out as far as notifying people also. I think we discussed it. For instance, what I'm saying is, if there is a positive case in class, I do not have a problem. I would not have a problem as a parent of a kid in that class that I received a call saying, Mr. Burgess, there was a positive case in the classroom that your kid was in. Your kid is not quarantined. However, we would like you to monitor any symptoms that a kid would have. We ask that you do the right thing, and if he is not feeling well, she's not feeling well, then that you keep him home until the symptoms are not there.
That's right.
That's not part of the motion, but I think that's something as far as the board policy procedure should go.
The main thing is that we're not sending home healthy kids.
That's right.
But, I mean, I taught many years in private and public eyelid, through flu, and all this other. And those which are highly contagious.
That's right.
Highly contagious, and only those kids went home. And if you know anything about chickenpox years ago, one kid got it, another got it, and you just knew it was gonna happen, but you didn't send home the whole class, and just wait for them to get it. And that's what I feel like COVID, we send everybody home and everybody just waits. And they should be in school. And I think only sick kids should go home.
That's right.
To be clear, one last time, this is, what you're proposing is not lawful.
Can we not ask the health department to do the contact tracing?
Yeah, so what I'm referring to is the exclusion from school is a control measure. So it's not that you quarantine. The health department does all of that, but the health department has directed who has to be excluded from school. And so they have the authority to change these things and these rules. But you as the Board of Education do.
Well, then let them change it. We're not gonna hear.
We elect you.
We got you back. Yep.
Can somebody just give us the numbers? If you send 100 kids home that have been contact traced, how many of those 99 that were contact traced, not the positive one, how many of those 99 actually tested positive after the fact while in quarantine? What's that percentage? Nobody's giving us those numbers. You're saying you're sending 100 kids home, or 10 kids home, the one positive, you got 9 others in the house. How many of those 9 are testing positive? Somebody answer that.
I get it, Fred. I guess this motion you made,
this
is not actually legal.
Sure it is.
But
Sure it is.
if we don't start somewhere.
Wrong, Gary.
That's
We're
right.
not to do it. Let me say something about Dr. Gainey. I want to tell you guys something. You've said some hard things about our superintendent. I've worked, and I want you to listen, because if you interrupt me on this one and you start saying something about Dr. Gainey, we're going out. You're going out. Okay? Even this is a good meeting. But I'm going to tell you something about our superintendent. I've been with him for 9 years. We don't always agree on anything. But I'm going to tell you something. I was here when we interviewed him, and I was one of the ones that hired him. And I'm going to tell you something. His heart, he has a job to do. He has a code of ethics he has to abide by. His duty as a superintendent, you know what? He probably would agree with us a lot in his heart tonight. But you know what? He can't. Some things you can't do as a superintendent. You may think it, but there's that professional part. And but I'm gonna tell you something, guys. The man's heart's in the right place. He loves Randolph County. I remember when we interviewed him, and he said he used to ride by here going to visit his wife's family in Charlotte. And he always thought he would go the back way, like I guess it's 49. And what a beautiful place. He said, you know what, I'd like to live there one day. And that always stood out. But you know what, he's been here 9 years. And most of the time when you hire a superintendent, they're looking for the next best job. That's what they're doing. They're looking to move the ladder. 9 out of 10 of them, they'll be with you 2 years, 3 years at the most. And whether you guys disagree with him tonight, that's okay or whatever, but I'm going to tell you something. He's a good man. And he's good for Randolph County. He loves these kids. He loves his school system. And every night when most of us probably asleep, he may be in his office still working. But we may not agree with him tonight as a board, but I want you guys to do me a favor, and I want you to give this superintendent a hand, because he deserves it. We appreciate you. Motion. Made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we're gonna vote by raising our hands. All those
Good,
in
can I
favor?
answer one question
Sure.
before? I heard behind me someone ask what happens to the children who have been excluded from school, because we don't officially quarantine, and that's the word that's been kicked back and forth for 19 months and inappropriately kicked back and forth. But the question there is, we do send lists of who has been excluded from school. Quite frankly, they come from my desk. I have one sitting on my desk right now. I write a note on it. I write the date, I write the school, and there's several reporting things I do, not only to my staff, as far as cleaning up areas, whether it's a bus we need to make sure it's cleaned or classrooms have been cleaned. But once that list goes away, we do not know what happens after that. And that's something you and I have talked about along the way, and if, there's been so many conversations. We don't know. I couldn't tell whoever's behind me asking what happened to the 100 kids. I don't know, because that is not our job. And I'm not going to take responsibility for that. Once we get it to the health department, it's gone from the Randolph County school system. So I want you to know, I don't have an answer now any more than I did 19 months ago on this issue. And there were weeks where I was sending, or days when I was sending 13 reports in a day for different things. So just to make sure the board's completely clear on that, that's one of the things. And then when Ashworth has worked as close as anybody with me, as we've had to build a little bit of a team to manage this thing the last 6-7 months. But we don't know. We don't know that. That would be a health department question. That would not be ours, because we don't know, and I don't think they would answer that, because they're not going to be able to answer about any specific information that's confidential health information. So I just put that answer out there that we don't know that. We've always wondered too. I mean, and Ms. Farlow, to your point, Ms. Farlow, I've heard more from Ms. Farlow, and I know who said different things through the last 19 months. And the part about sending the sick child home, I get it. I get it. I totally get it. And I've been frustrated just like everybody else. My whole family sat home for 2 weeks last year. My little girl could hardly stay in school last year in the winter. So I get it. I begged my kids to go get tested, because after they got quarantined, I told my little boy, if you sit down in class and somebody is positive in your class, that's before we went from the whole class going home and the whole bus. I said, Jake, if you sit down in class and somebody's positive, you're going to miss the first half of baseball season. So I get it. I get it. So we've done the best we can to follow the rules. A news media outlet asked me the other week. They were in my office, and they were, after we did the extra thing we did for employees the other week, that you guys, I appreciate you supporting. They started to go here. They wanted to go here in my line, and it didn't get in the story. I said, my board's done the best they could with this situation. And my staff has too. And I won't back off that. So I don't know what this board decides tonight, but I will tell you that answer to that question. I was hearing it when you guys were talking. We don't know, and we probably never will know. We've never known what happened unless a self-report came back to us. And quite frankly, we didn't have time to go back through all our data and say, well, oh yeah, that kid, sometimes we could catch it, sometimes we couldn't, but most times we were looking at the positive and looking what that child might have been impacted. And we were looking at schools to see, when we got 5 in a window of time, was it going to be a cluster? Were they connected? So that's, we don't know exactly what's happened to all these kids or staff.
That's right. They didn't die. Send the sick one home.
Okay, we had Fred made the motion, Brian seconded, and now we're we'll vote. Raising your hand. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Got you back.
Motion carries.
make sure I heard this, make sure everybody understands, what date did you say, the 15th?
November 15th.
So the last, we will make communications to our staff and to our parents that effective the morning of November 15th, that mask or cloth face coverings are optional. Is that what I'm hearing the board say? So we'll start our communications, and no more, and that'll be more our conversation with our principals starting tomorrow in principal meeting.
And we can talk, I guess, at the November 15th.
Board meeting that night.
We have a board meeting that night, and if there's anything else we need to, I guess we can discuss it then. And, in the real world, if, I don't know, if at that point or down the road, if things get out of hand, again, or numbers go crazy.
Well, we're still required, it's not a law, but it is required, whatever, to vote every month.
Every month.
So, but it has to come back up. In December at least, not 15th.
I will tell you tonight, though, I did vote for this, but I also have the other side. I did think the numbers were too high. I may not agree with it, but like I said at the last meeting, my main goal was keeping kids in school. And that's always going to be the main goal. And I hope to God this keeps kids in school. If it backfires and it goes the other way, and we're 3 months down the road, we'll have to look at, maybe they'll step in. So, we'll see.
Doesn't matter what the numbers are. We'll work for you. Kids will get better. They'll have strong immunities after this.
Everybody pray, everybody pray.
I guess so
Well, there's one other thing that we do that is out there that we need to address. If you want to wait till the board meeting on the 15th, then fine, which is actually, maybe that's when we do it. But we need, no, it's not a big elephant, but it's the cafeteria. I mean, we're moving there.
Yes.
I mean, if we're not
after 3:15, they're on the playground, or they're at the Creekside Park together, so I don't know anymore.
Give them their lives back. That's right.
If we're not contact tracing, we don't need to. We don't need. We can allow them to go sit where they want to sit in the cafeteria. I'm doing that. I don't know if that's.
We'll think. I'm sure we'll think of several loose ends.
It's not going to change to the 15th either.
No.
Yeah.
Let's just let the night
Okay.
settle in, and then we'll go 15. Okay, so do I have thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you guys.
Once again, Dr. Gainey, appreciate everything you do, this board does. And even though we don't agree tonight, that's okay. We hadn't always agreed, but as far as I'm concerned, you're one of the best superintendents in the state of North Carolina. So, okay, so I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Meeting adjourned.